Well, David, last week we spent $476 million on acreage in the Gunnedah Basin in New South Wales. Now, you've been talking about building an LNG plant in Gladstone. I looked on a map and I reckon it's about 1,000 kilometres between Gunnedah and Gladstone, maybe 1,500 at least. So what are you doing in Gunnedah?
Yeah, I think your map's clearly right. What we're doing in Gunnedah is not connected to what we're doing in Queensland. What we did in Queensland, we started in Queensland in about 2002 with the purchase of Scotia, and then in 2005 getting into the Fairview assets. And since then, from 2005 to 2009, we built this huge business in Queensland, and which will result in LNG being delivered from Gladstone in 2040. What we're doing in Gunnedah is we've quietly built a strong position in Gunnedah, and then last week, far less quietly, we considerably increased that position. So we now have a basin master position in the Gunnedah Basin in New South Wales.
And where are you going to sell that gas?
And that gas is obviously the amount of gas that's used or the amount of gas-fired power in New South Wales right now is absolutely minimal, 1 to 2%. And clearly, as we go forward, it's part of the gas story, because gas is sort of, I can't say it's carbon free, that would not be right, but it's carbon light. And I believe that gas will play an increasingly important role in power generation in Australia over the next, say, 10 to 50 years as we go forward into a lower carbon economy. So we'll be able to sell the gas into the power market.
And that compares with Origin's most recent purchase of coal seam gas, 3p reserves of 57 cents. So are you paying too much?
When we look at all these comparisons, and of course they're a bit of the eye of the beholder, one of the key things you've got to look at is the timestamp. Obviously, Origin's assets they recently bought was a little bit more mature. The asset we've bought is clearly very immature, so it's very early on. So the amount of 3p reserves that's actually been sort of proven up as 3p reserves is very minimal in comparison to the total resource potential. What we've got involved in here, Alan, is a basin which has the potential for, in sort of, you might say, an oil language of more than 5 billion barrels, potentially even 7 or 8 billion barrels of oil. Now, obviously, it'll take us 40, 50, 60 years maybe to prove that up. But just to get involved in something of that scale is incredibly exciting. And we've got in very early, and we believe we've got in at a very much a market price, or slightly below market price.